that my son Luke was in a golf cart accident. And we were told that the golf cart that Luke was on landed on top of his chest, and he suffered head and chest trauma and was in cardiac arrest for 7 minutes. So,
what was that moment like when you found out things were going to be permanently different?
When the doctor at Cook Children's told me that based on Luke's MRI, he will never use his limbs, use his voice, or open his eyes. I didn't want to hear what Luke wasn't going to do. I was just convinced of what we were going to try to do.
All right, welcome back to the lounge at the Gents Place at Frisco, the Star. And Tim, I already know, man, you're a New Orleans Saints fan. So just to have you here at Cowboys headquarters, I know is a big deal. So he's going to go on record, by the way, and say he's only here because of me, not because of the Cowboys. Right?
Exactly.
But I have Tim Siegel here today, who is the executive director for Team Luke, Hope for Minds. Tim, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and you're in enemy territory. I know.
I wouldn't say enemy.
Okay.
But I am a Saints fan, a diehard Saints fan.
Yeah. Well, I know your son in a video I watched in the documentary specifically said he doesn't like the Cowboys.
He said that because, so many of the New Orleans faithful after the hurricane moved to Dallas, right? And so he knew that being in Dallas, we can't be Cowboy fans and Saints fans.
That's right. That's right. You have a wonderful charity, but I want to start with you being a Gents Place member. You've come in a grand total of one time.
I guess it was 3 weeks ago when I had my first haircut. I tell you what, this is an incredible place. This is more than I expected. I had a nice drink. I had great conversation with the person that cut my hair. An amazing place you have here.
Yeah, and you went to the South Lake location because you're living out in Keller now.
That's correct.
Yeah. It happens to be our busiest Gents Place in the entire country.
South Lake.
Yeah.
How we doing?
Yeah, I mean, huge team. Got a manager that's been there almost 10 years. And you didn't know this, but Capitol Grill's next door. So that's actually a new location. Capitol Grill moved us down 50 feet, just bumped us down in the same building and helped rebuild our location there. So you're in a brand new location.
Good spot.
Yeah, great spot. Anything different, between your experience at Gents Place and like in the last place? Like, what's the biggest difference? I know there's probably a lot, but
between Gents and any other place I've gotten my haircut?
Yeah, just your last several places you've gotten your haircut. I'm always curious that first time that guys come in, like, what are you most impressed by?
You walk in and you see this incredible bar and the lounge area to sit around and, just the quality of people that come in. I was just impressed with, having a good conversation with the woman that cut my hair and, wash your hair. I mean, it's first class all the way around. Heck of a facility you've got.
Yeah, thank you. Well, glad to have you in. And you and I met actually because of the Gents Place. You had spoken in Arkansas and Bentonville area, right?
That's correct.
And our franchise owner there, Josh Safran, had seen you speak, texted me, I think, immediately after, and said, "Oh my gosh, you have to meet Tim. I just saw him speak.
Right.
The story with his charity and his son. I know you'll relate to it and you'll be touched by it." And so you and I got connected there. So one of the things I love most about the Gents Place is it's connecting people. Like, you're going to meet going into South Lake. I'm 100% sure of it. You're going to bump into somebody there that you'll keep a connection with. And so I love that about our business, is that it brings people like us together.
Right.
And he was right. I mean, the first time we talked, I didn't know any of your story. I just knew it was something that touched Josh. But then we found out we had even a lot more in common, including being at Cook Children's I'm trying to time it up, but we were within maybe 30 days of each other.
Right.
I mean, there was a chance we may have passed each other in the hall at some point. As a lot of my listeners know, I have a son that has had 4 open heart surgeries and 10 plus total procedures, 12-hour open heart surgery that saved his life, which why he made his way to Cook Children's in Fort Worth when he was born. And then you shared with me the story of your son. Before we jump into that, though, I want our listeners to know a little bit more about you.
Okay.
And your history, because you're quite an athlete. Maybe still are. I mean, I haven't seen you play tennis, but give us a little bit of background on you.
Well, I can still run like I'm 20, but I did start playing tennis at a very early age from New Orleans, played from 7 on, and started playing national tournaments at age 12 and competed all over the country, and then was a Arkansas Razorback from 82 to 86. And we had some great teams, top 10 every year. And my doubles partner and I made the semifinals of the NCAAs. And then I went on to the Pro Tour, and I played for 3 years and was fortunate enough and blessed to have played all 4 Grand Slams, played against some big names like John McEnroe, Yvonne Lendl, and Yannick Noah, and just loved traveling the world and playing tennis, and played doubles in all those events. Stefan Edberg was also a big name that I played against at the U.S. Open. So those were great memories, and enjoyed my time on the tour. But I always knew I wanted to coach college tennis. And I started out actually in Dallas as the women's tennis coach in 1991 for 2 years at SMU, and men's assistant coach. And then in 1993, January of 93, started at Texas Tech, where I coached for 23 years and loved coaching, just loved every bit of it, every aspect of it, from teaching to coaching, developing relationships. I was a very demanding coach, but I also got to know my players on a very personal level, to know how they ticked and what made them work, and talked about family and talked about things that were important and trying to make an impact on their life, not just trying to improve their game. We had some good success at Texas Tech, top 10 a couple of years, top 20 most every year, the last maybe 15 or so. So it was very, it was a powerful time for me to be a coach, to mentor so many kids. Loved coaching. But what I loved more than coaching was being around my children. And ultimately decided to resign in 2015 so that I could spend more time with my 3 younger kids. I have 3 daughters, and at the time, an older daughter from a previous marriage, and then a 12-year-old daughter, 10-year-old daughter, and a 9-year-old son when I made the decision to resign from Texas Tech.
Let's talk about coaching for a second. And you're a big basketball fan, as am I. One of the things I've seen in basketball coaching is you have a lot of coaches that are very focused on the team winning and however that needs to be done, but not necessarily on individual player development. So it's like either you have what I need right now or not. And if you don't, I'll swap you out and I'll find the guy that's there now. Tennis seems different since it's a individual or a double sport. It seems to me like as a coach, you would be much more focused on development than maybe a traditional basketball team oriented coach. Is that the case, or are there development people? Because the basketball team now has player development. They almost outsource it.
Right.
I was talking to one of the Celtics coaches, and he had assistant coach. He has 2 guys that he's focused on development, while Joe Mazzulla is focused on the team.
Right.
But how is it with tennis? Are you really focused on that individual development?
I think every coach would like to say and admit that they're focusing on the development. You're coaching and you're teaching. Yes, it's an individual sport because you've got 6 singles matches and 3 doubles matches going on. But it's every coach is wanting to get the best talent, and some coaches just throw out the balls and let these kids play. I was very much a coach that worked on development, strategic, coaching and just understanding the game and the geometry of the court and how things worked. And my strength as a coach was strategy on court, kind of developing your strengths and also trying to hide your weaknesses and exposing your opponent's weaknesses. And so I love the strategic part of the game. I was not a big guy. I had to figure out how to win, on sort of smarts and toughness and speed and that kind of thing. And so I think that was what I was trying to do with my team. But what I also loved about coaching in college is that although you're playing individually, I really emphasized the team. I emphasized the culture, being on time, working hard. I think what I was trying to do was teach these guys beyond tennis, life after tennis, and the discipline, because I was very disciplined as growing up playing tennis and on my own and traveling the world. And so I tried to instill that into my players as well.
Yeah. Has NIL at all affected tennis?
It certainly has.
Is there transfer portal in tennis?
Same thing. Transfer portal. The NIL has trickled down to tennis, and especially some of the bigger programs are paying 6 figures to get their top players to come to their schools. So it is there for sure.
Interesting. Well, I love the player development side of things. I love when I see a coach that is interested in getting that kid to the next level,
Hmm.
whether it's in that season or maybe from high school to college. And I do think with transfer portal and all of these things going on and the kind of outsourcing or delegation of player development, we're losing a lot of that. Where the coaches are like, you know what, if this kid's not cutting it, I could just go to the transfer portal and kind of get an upgrade. And then the kid's thinking the same thing. If this team's not a good fit, I'll go get an upgrade myself.
I was never a big fan of transfers because there must have been a reason why they
Hmm.
transferred, or was it the player or was it the coach? But this day and age, you see that some of these kids are playing in two or three different teams. Obviously, I'm a big sports fan, so I see it all over in all the sports. But I also know that what's not lost, hopefully, is that these coaches are still trying to develop the players, improve their games, yes, but also improve them as people to get them to be ready for real life after school.
Yeah, because that's the reality for, I don't know, whatever percent, 99%, maybe higher.
Absolutely. And, I was a pretty good singles player in college, in the juniors, but I knew I wasn't going to be a professional tennis player in singles. But I took doubles so seriously and I understood the game. And so that provided me an opportunity to play the world and play all the big tournaments. So, there's singles and doubles as well, as just trying to develop these kids to get them to understand that you're going to improve if you work hard.
Hmm.
And I was a big believer in work ethic.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Texas Tech football looking good. Texas Tech basketball. I'm not sure when we're gonna air this, but maybe there's gonna be some news that Tech makes it all the way in football. And I'm cheering on the basketball team.
Mm.
I'm a college basketball fan. I don't have a specific team, even though I went to UT. So I'll root for Tech just for you.
Well, I was a Razorback and of course coached 23 years at Texas Tech, so those are my two teams and follow them very closely. And it's a great time to be a Red Raider, that's for sure.
Yeah, last summer I saw Calipari walk past us at a Puma tournament, basketball
Mm.
tournament, and that was, all heads turned. Everyone was very quiet, and that was first year at Arkansas. Let's go back to you leaving Texas Tech. You made a decision there to spend time with your kids, and told your son, "Hey, I'm not working anymore as a coach. I'm going to spend more time with you guys." Walk through that moment when you walked in the door, and what happened shortly afterwards.
Well, I made the decision to retire for one main reason. That was to spend more time with my family. And all three of my young kids love sports. My daughter Kate was playing basketball and ultimately volleyball as well. And my daughter Ellie was playing volleyball and cheered competitively. And then Luke was a big time baseball player. And it just struck me that I did not want to miss their sporting events. And the spring season in college tennis is what you're all about, January through May. And I didn't want to miss that. So I made the decision to resign, specifically to be able to take my son Luke to spring training games because how much he loved baseball. And so on July 8th of 2015, I came to the house and first person to greet me was Luke, who was 9 at the time. And I said, "Hey, Luke, Dad just resigned from Texas Tech." And his first words were, "So we're not gonna be able to watch football in your office anymore?"
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "But we're gonna be going to spring training games." And he lit up, and I knew I made the right decision. 20 days later, though, I was coaching. My job went from coaching college tennis to coaching middle school and high school. Not the usual path for Division I coach, but I was coaching at the schools where my kids were going to school. So I was going to do that until Luke graduated from high school. And then at that point, we'll see what happens. July 8th, resigned from Texas Tech. July 9th was the middle school and high school coach, Cooper High School and Laura Bush Middle School in Lubbock, and was really excited. But on July 28th, I was at the high school and I got a phone call that no dad ever wants to receive, that my son Luke was in a golf cart accident. Didn't know the severity until I got to the scene of the accident. The ambulance was just taking off. The helicopter was hovering above. Firemen told me to get to the hospital. A few minutes later, was in a room at the hospital with my wife at the time, and we were told that the golf cart that Luke was on landed on top of his chest, and he suffered head and chest trauma and was in cardiac arrest for 7 minutes. So from that point on, my world changed.
Mm. Well, I watched a documentary, which I encourage everyone to watch, which you know details out some of the events after that. When you first told me what you told me just now, I immediately kind of went back to my experience with my son
Hmm.
and just the pain of um, seeing your child in pain is unlike anything I've ever experienced. And it's happened to both of us multiple times,
Right.
like through that
Sure.
journey. Um, what what was that moment like when you found out things were going to be permanently different?
I don't know if I was naive, but I'm very strong in my faith in God. And even though ultimately, after spending 44 days in Lubbock, we then spent, 4 months at Cook Children's. And I'll never forget walking into a room when the doctor at Cook Children's told me that based on Luke's MRI, he will never use his limbs, use his voice, or open his eyes. But when those moments hit me, I just had this feeling we were going to get more than what we were told. Not only in my faith, but I was a coach and I was going to coach Luke up. And Luke was a competitor. He was an athlete. And together we were going to change the world. We were going to make some things happen that we were told would never happen. I didn't want to hear what Luke wasn't going to do. I was just convinced of what we were going to try to do. And so I was naive, yes, but also confident that things would get better. And we did spend 4 months at Cook Children's where Luke didn't make enough progress to warrant staying, but he did make his first sound there. And that was incredibly important to me. And then I'll never forget this. We came back to Lubbock, where I then became his primary caregiver. And I went to every therapy session, PT, OT, speech. Ultimately, we did a number of alternative therapies from stem cell to laser therapy to hyperbaric oxygen. But it was a year after the accident. I was in my house with Luke, walking around in his wheelchair. And I used to ask Luke to blink if. But was that Luke having to blink or was that just automatic? And the Saints were about to play that day. And I stopped and I said, Luke, move your tongue if you think the Saints are going to win today. And began to move his tongue. And from that point on, I said, I've got this. If he can respond to one command, we're on our way.
Mm-hmm. You've spent a lot of time with parents with your charity, which we'll talk more about, who have had similar experiences. Of course, when I was going through all the things that we went through with my son early on, they put you in support groups and have you talk to other parents. And some parents are still processing everything and maybe believing exactly what the doctor said. Well, it's
Mm-hmm.
hopeless.
Mm-hmm.
He's never going to talk again. He's never going to walk again. He'll never play sports. And then others have a perspective where, when they hear that news, the immediate reaction is, no, it's not going to be like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And maybe it's the entrepreneur in me that's perpetually optimistic.
Right. Right.
It's like when someone tells me there's a 99% chance you're going to fail or it's not going to work. All I hear is, so there's a 1%
Sure.
chance that
Sure.
I can make it.
Yeah.
It seems like you had, maybe with your training, your mindset, that reaction was, there's a chance. Is there any chance? If
Mm-hmm.
there's any chance, we're going to pursue that. That's what we're going to focus on. And ultimately it happened, right? You
Right.
started to see
Sure.
progress.
Well, Luke's injury was an anoxic injury. You have traumatic and anoxic. Anoxic meaning Luke lost oxygen, which is much more difficult to make significant progress. But I just felt that we would. And so from 2016, January 6th, when we came home, um, up to 2021, for 6 years, not only did we make progress, I eventually went from Luke, move your tongue to can I hear your voice? He would open his mouth. Nothing would come out. To then I would hear sounds. And then it would be like, Luke, I love you. And I would say, I love you. And I would hear,
Mm-hmm.
So he was responding to me. We sat in a chair and we watched football or we watched baseball. And I would say to Luke, Luke, your hero Drew Brees is playing right now. And his eyes might be closed, but I could tell he understood. And then he would open his eyes and maybe a slight smile. Luke, Elvis Andrews of the Rangers is about to get a hit for you. So sports, I really felt like was going to catapult Luke into what we were told he would never do. And I was his, in some ways, I was coach, dad, and also TV commentator to get Luke to hear about sports, because sports was everything to him. Drew Brees being his ultimate hero. And
Tell us what Drew did for him right after the accident.
we reached out to the Saints, and Drew Brees sent a video maybe a week or two after, and it was basically, "Hey Luke, I'm praying for you. I can't wait to see you at a Saints game." And I played that for Luke 10,000 times because maybe something would trigger. And then ultimately we went to Saints games. Luke and I made a deal that we're going to go watch the Saints play every year for the rest of our lives. We went to 3, and then the accident happened, but then we went to 7 or 8 games in the next 6 years. And the Saints were incredible. Drew Brees talked to Luke. Drew Brees threw a pass to Luke's friend in the end zone at a practice and gave it to Luke because he promised he was going to throw Luke a pass. We have a game ball sitting in my house that Drew gave to Luke. Drew meant and continues to mean the world. I feel like Drew Brees helped Luke get better. And so many athletes have reached out to us. You know, Patrick Mahomes, of course, was at Texas Tech, and he has never played a game for the Chiefs without wearing a Team Luke bracelet on his wrist, a black and green bracelet right here on his right wrist. He means the world to us, too. He actually started his nonprofit, his foundation called 50 and the Homies, because of a little boy named Luke Siegel. And the tennis world has been great, too, from Andre Agassi, Andy Roddick, John Isner. I can go on, that have done events for us. And we're just so grateful. And really the ultimate, probably the most incredible thing that's ever happened to us when it comes to honoring Luke is what Joey McGuire, coach of Texas Tech, has done for. He knows that Luke's favorite number is 3, and he doesn't give out number 3 anymore. It goes to the hardest worker and the greatest fighter in honor of my son Luke, which is just overwhelming.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, and Drew Brees is on record saying that Luke has made him a better human being,
Right.
a better person,
Right.
not just a better football player.
Yeah.
It's so special. I mean, to hear an athlete like him who's
Yeah.
met everybody in the world and had the most advanced training,
Right.
and I'm sure business coaching and personal coaching and leaders in his life, to know that your son impacted him in that way just as a human being.
You know, you use the word impact, and my goal in life is to continue to make sure that Luke is making an impact. And unfortunately, it's in a different way now.
Yeah.
August of 2021, Luke got COVID, and we knew that COVID was out there, but we were sent home when he got COVID. But I was aware that he needed more breathing treatments, so we went to the hospital, and they put Luke in a room, not even in ICU. I went home. My wife stayed with him, and I got a knock on my door. Get to ICU the next morning. On my way to the hospital, I hear a voice. "You're going to be okay, but Luke's not going to make it." And got to the hospital, and the doctor confirmed that she didn't think that Luke was going to make it. And Luke passed away on August 19th of 2021 at the age of 15. And as devastating as that has been for me, I do know, though, that Luke continues to make an impact and inspires people all the time. I get people talking about, "Hey, my son wears number 3 in honor of Luke." And you know, the sports world has been amazing, but also so many families and that we're helping now with our nonprofit in honor of my son, and keeping Luke's legacy alive is what my purpose in life, you know, is to do that. And so I'm blessed to be able to do that every day.
Well, just through our shared faith, right? There's redemption in everything. And just seeing what's happened, looking back, I wasn't there in 2021 or when the accident happened, but watching the documentary and seeing what you've done since your son has passed is incredible. The families that you've touched. And so I know that that's true. I know that it's true that the impact is not only happening, but it's growing, right? It's growing every year. So it's really special to see that. When did you start the charity?
So 2017, I started Team Luke. Didn't know the first thing about nonprofits, but I knew what I wanted to do. I met a woman named Rhonda Johnson in Austin who had Hope for Minds because a friend of hers son, JD, had a non-fatal drowning, JD Hartman. And I went to Austin to visit with Rhonda, and in a matter of minutes, we decided let's merge. And so, January of 2018, we started Team Luke Hope for Minds. Our nonprofit supports children all over the country. We're in 47 states. We have helped families in a variety of ways through financial support, through education. We have support groups online. We just had our annual, I think our 9th annual conference in Austin. Over 200 families attended, over 800 people were there. We had presenters, we had a resource fair, and it's called Making Connections. And that's really what we're trying to do with families, to make connections not only with presenters to learn more about how they can help their child, but also to talk to each other. And we're getting almost 25 applications every single month. Those that suffer from non-fatal drownings, car accidents, accidents like my son, ATV, golf cart. We're getting them every single day, and I believe there are every 9 seconds there's a traumatic anoxic brain injury. It's overwhelming. And this year alone, in 2025, we have 2 times, almost 3 times the amount of families that need our help. We've granted over $3 million to families over the last X amount of years. We are a nonprofit. When I started, I had no idea the extent, how many families need our help. I didn't know about brain injuries. And so because of my son, and I mentioned this at the conference, because of my son, because of his injury on July 28, 2015, we're able to make an impact. I'm able to inspire. I'm able to give hope to families, because that's really the key word, isn't it?
That's the key word. I don't think there's a charity that exists that has enough money to meet every financial need of the people that they support, right? But you're giving something a lot more than money, right? The money's important. It helps. I know just the medical bills continue to pile up for me, right? We're on payment plan after payment plan because there's just, it's like an unlimited amount of ongoing financial distress there. But tell us more about, beyond the money that you're providing, which is important. What are you giving families that they really need right now that they may not get without the support of the charity?
I mentioned hope, and we're giving them hope. I talk to a parent. Rhonda talks to a parent. Our staff talks to parents regularly. So I think education is more important than even financial support, because we all want to know, we may have been told what your son or daughter is not going to do, and it's grim. The fact that I was told that Luke would never do these things and then did those things, and I was convinced that Luke was going to speak. He's just speaking right now through me. But so I think you never want to give false hope. I'm not a doctor. I just mentioned to parents what we did, different therapies that we did. So we talk about education. I mentioned support groups online. We have a tremendous staff that our support groups are really invaluable to these families. But our conference, I think, is the most important thing that we do, because it's an opportunity for families to come together where you feel safe, where everyone, quote unquote, gets it. And to be able to see these families interact with each other, it's just so beautiful to see. It's powerful to see. At one time, I was a father and the executive director, now just the executive director. But I know that Luke's presence is felt by everyone in that room. And as difficult as it is to even today, it's been 4 years since my son passed. But I'm in a different place today because I finally forgave. Luke was at a friend's house on a golf cart I didn't know existed, but I forgave. And I think that's a message also, that forgiveness is the most important thing that we can do in life. And I do a lot of public speaking all over the country, and I have what's called 7 Inspirations from Luke, and I share those 7 inspirations. But having faith and finding forgiveness, those things are incredibly important. And but I do enjoy talking to parents. I do a lot of public speaking. We also have a lot of events that we have throughout the year in order to raise money, because we need to raise money every year to help these families, and that's so important.
Yeah. What is the biggest struggle? Is it the finding resources, like, educational resources? Is it just the processing of the emotional trauma? Is it like the logistics of, I don't know how to get help or where to get help? What would you say is number one? I know there's a lot of needs, but what is number one for these types of situations?
When a parent, and I'll use me as an example, when I left the hospital, there was no blueprint what we're supposed to do next. It was more or less, I'm sorry what's happened, do some therapies, and who knows? But even the best neurologists, neurosurgeons in the world don't know what your child can do once they leave the hospital through therapies. And I think the greatest therapy that Luke received was love from his family, from me, and talking to Luke every day. I treated Luke as if he understood everything. But the greatest challenge is the unknown, what we're told and what we can do. And so we provide the education to let parents know what is out there to try to help your child. And every day there's new things that we know that the brain can heal. We know the brain can, there's triggers, there's opportunities to see the brain do more than what we were told. And I saw it firsthand. Luke is never going to use his limbs, use his voice, or open his eyes. Globally damaged brain. And yet Luke responded to me. Luke knew me. Luke understood. I'll never forget when the Saints would win a game and Luke would make sounds and Luke, I'm home after being gone. And I would see Luke light up. When Luke would talk to his mom and she would talk to Luke and he would make sounds. He was the ultimate improvement, what we were told he was never going to do. And so if Luke can improve, others can as well. It's just helping navigate this incredibly challenging course that too often we're told, I'm sorry, but. And we've seen some incredible things. I have seen over the last 8 to 10 years what families can see. The rewiring of the brain, and also something so small, and you know this as well as I do. Luke moving his tongue was like winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I could have moved a car because I saw that. And so I think when parents see just the littlest of little, it's not little. And I see it every day. I was just in Phoenix recently and talked to a mom whose daughter is just occasionally does things that she might not have done before. That's everything. That's everything to families. So it's we're able to help families navigate through education, support groups online, but also just talking to parents. Because I didn't have anyone initially to talk to. And now when they can talk to someone who's been there, it really does offer a lot of hope.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, both as a parent and as a child, seeing my son who's going to be, 18 and tomorrow, um, he has trouble relating to other kids that haven't experienced what he's experienced, or maybe hasn't experienced really anything that's really traumatic.
Right.
And there's a sense of feeling alone, and as a child, and I know with these traumatic brain injuries, maybe there's not even the awareness there a lot of times, but anyone that's experienced these types of things as a parent, as a child, that's aware like he is, it's a struggle, just the loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
And so the community that you guys have built, I would say just outside looking in, I would see as the most valuable, just having someone who's going through something similar, or not just someone, but you have 200 families that show up.
Right. And we've helped over 1,000 families in our existence. And a lot of times when you talk to these parents, they're having to juggle their child who had the brain injury, but their other children and their spouse. And for me, unfortunately, I have an amazing relationship with my ex-wife, but she's my ex-wife because of what happened to us.
Yeah.
We saw things differently and just in the grieving process. And there's just so much. And you're grieving your child who's still there, but different. And then also trying to be the best you can for your other children. I have 3 beautiful, incredible daughters. Alex, Kate, and Ellie didn't get enough of me during those early times because I was so focused on trying to help Luke get better. And it's a tough thing for parents. And so I'm trying to help families through my dad support group and my podcast to remind dads and moms, but especially dads, to be involved as much as possible with your other children. And it's not easy, but it's possible.
Well, Dr. Phil, it was in the documentary, and he spoke very briefly about that, about going through this experience as husband and wife. And doing things intentionally to try to keep that relationship intact because it's going to be strained.
Right.
Do you provide, I don't know what extent Dr. Phil's involved or other resources like that that are focused on the spousal relationship to try to keep that intact through all of this?
Well, you mentioned Dr. Phil, and he was tremendous in our documentary. Our documentary is called Hope Beyond the Diagnosis. It's on YouTube. But we do provide counseling, and we have a therapist that helps. We have these support groups because we all need it. I needed therapy for sure. And, my identity was never being a coach. My identity was being a father. And a lot of my identity changed because of what happened to Luke, and certainly when Luke passed. It took me a while. It took me a couple of years to process what I was going through and needing help. And I think the most important thing we as dads can do is recognize you can't do it by yourself.
Yeah.
You can't do it alone. And the love of family and friends has helped me tremendously. But it's been a process, and I'm finally in a place today. I'm still extremely sad, this time of the year especially. It's all the time of the year. I moved to Dallas almost 2 years ago, and it's been a tremendous opportunity for me to spread awareness to this community as well. But it's not easy. It's certainly not easy because Luke was my little hero. But Luke is right here in my heart every day.
Yeah. And in other people's hearts. And I'm glad that you moved to Dallas. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had a chance to meet.
Right.
And to do this podcast and get this information out to all of the DFW and hopefully beyond, because you guys are a national organization.
Yes, we are.
We're almost out of time. I want to talk before we go about March 26th up here at the Star.
Yes.
At Dallas Cowboys headquarters.
Yes.
What's going on March 26th, and how can people get involved in the event?
March 26th is going to be a big day for us. March is Brain Injury Awareness Month, and it also happens to be the third month. I don't know if that's an irony or not. I don't believe in coincidence, but I'm a huge football fan, and I am a huge Darren Woodson fan, and just have so much respect and admiration for him. And so I reached out to him, and he agreed to speak at the Star March 26th. You can go on our website, teamlukeoverminds.org, and learn more about the event. We've had so many people do so many different events for us, from Drew Brees, Dick Vitale, Demario Davis from the Saints, some musical guests as well in the tennis world. But I'm just so excited to have Darren Woodson and to be in the Star, whether you're a Cowboy fan or not. Just to be around these Cowboys and to talk to Darren. I could have talked to Darren about football for hours and hours. I knew more about him than he did, I think. So I'm really excited about this. So March 26th is going to be a big day for us.
Gotcha. And we still have some tables available.
Absolutely.
$2,500 for 10.
Right. And we have sponsorship still available as well. So reach out to me as well. Tim at teamlukeoverminds.org, but also our website. But I encourage everyone to go to our website. And you may not know, but if you can share what you've heard today, you may have a friend of a friend of a friend whose child had a brain injury. So spread awareness to what we're doing. Team Luke Over Minds is here to help families every single day.
Amazing. And guys, we'll drop the Tim's email and then also the website address so you guys can get involved and hopefully be present at the event on March 26th here at the Star. Tim, thank you so much for coming today and sharing your story. I could talk to you for hours. And hopefully we'll see more of you around here at the Gents Place getting your haircut.
Not only that, to watch your son play basketball. Looking forward to it.
That's right. Thank you very much. All right, guys, until next time.